Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 687. Today we're going to talk about South African fingerboards. Now I usually have a game box or something to show you when I do a review on this channel, but there is no box for this game. This is a large board. The one board that I'm going to show you is a medium size board, and it's 31 inches by 31 inches. Now the board that I'm going to feature is from a company called Expat Fingerboards. So I'm in the United States and they're in the United States now. And so they are now making and manufacturing these South African fingerboard boards for the United States and Canada. Now it's traditionally found in South Africa, although I know I've talked to some folks and they can find it in Australia and New Zealand and so on. But if you're in the States like me or in Canada, then you want to take a look at this, and it basically, to give you kind of the gist, is sort of like a variant of carom combined with crokinole, sort of. But let's go ahead and jump down to the board. It's very simple and easy to play. It plays 2 or 4 players and works well for the family and so on. But let's jump down. I'll show you quickly how the rules work. It's going to be a very quick rules explanation, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it. So here is the board, which takes up all of the frame, and this one here is their medium-sized board, 31 inches by 31 inches. The other one is 37 by 37, so if you can just add basically 3 inches around all the edges of the board, that's a slightly bigger board. Now this fits actually perfectly on this table that I've got here. Now what players are doing is, I've set up here just kind of like a little 2-player game to show you the rules examples. But if you're playing teams, then you will play across from each other and cooperate and each try to score the different color discs there in the middle. Now the game comes with this bag here, and it's got these kind of loop-de-loos here. There are little hooks on the back of this, so you can fill this bag with all these discs and everything, draw it pretty tightly, and then these will hook on the actual back of this board and hang it. So when you pick the board up, I'm not going to do it now, but when I lift this board up, maybe set it on its side against a wall, then these pieces will hang from it nicely. Now let's take these off of here, and we'll just kind of do a little 2-player game as an example. So if you ever played carom or even 8-ball, it's very similar to that, but the action is more like playing crokinole or some other flicking game. Now, one other interesting thing about this is these flicking discs are a little different here. You can see these have these indented things where you can put your finger in the middle there, and you have down here this shooting area there. So you're going to shoot from this side. So the way that you play the game is you're trying to score either the white or red discs into each of the pockets, and there's pockets on each of the corners here. You can see these kind of tuck in a little bit here, like so. So you're trying to, let's say, knock in white or red, and you don't know that until one of them gets knocked in. So we'll show you kind of the shooting action here. You put your finger in the middle there and then flick it, and then you're going to knock them. So you can see over there in that corner, I knocked the red in. So now my team is trying to knock all of the reds in, and once you knock all of your color in, then finally you'll try to knock the blue in, similar to how it works in 8-ball. So now that you've knocked one in, you get a chance to go again until you don't knock one in. We've actually played with the variant rules on this, so you can kind of variant your rules as much as you want, you know, playing with the family and stuff, so you can kind of gauge it different ways or different levels for kids or first-time players. But typically you can play, if you knock one in, then you get a chance to go again. If you knock in your disc, then you have to actually pull one out. So if I knocked my disc into one of the pockets, I would take a red one out here and then put it back in the center. If I accidentally knock the blue one in, then I have to take 2 out and then put it in the center of my own color. If you knock your opponents in, then, you know, good for them. You don't get to go again, but, you know, you've knocked one in for them. I should say that these discs are not on the board. So when it's not your turn, you're going to take your disc off the board until the other player shoots. And again, you always shoot from back here. So I kind of apologize. Let's see if I can get a better angle. There we go. So we can do that. We knocked a couple more in. And so you just keep going back and forth. And then again, if you play in teams, then you're just going to kind of rotate around the board. So you're going to alternate teams. My team, your team, my team, your team, back and forth, and then shoot it. And then go, you know, keep going that way until somebody knocks them in, and then they win the game. And that's very simply how you play the game. Now, just to kind of show you here, this is sort of a glossed board here. I don't know the particular types of wood. I know they have a few different kinds that they've been playing with. There is kind of a nice bumper here along these edges here. The pockets here, they do go under to kind of give a little bit of extra room, you know, as maybe some of these pockets fill up, which is nice. Very easy to clean. They have some specific cleaning instructions on here, on their website I should say, but you can just take a simple cloth and just clean it off that way. You don't want to spray it with anything, but definitely go to the website, which I'll have linked below, for any kind of details about kind of the construction of these boards. But we've been really happy with it and having a lot of fun with it. But let's go back to kind of the talking head review. I'll tell you a little bit about more of my thoughts of the game. Before I go to my talking head, I just thought we'd show you kind of the back of the board. This is the hooks that I was kind of talking about before. So when you put this up on its side, you know, in a closet or against the wall, you can just leave those back there, and that makes sure you don't lose any of the pieces that way. Okay, so that was South African fingerboards. Let's do my 3 pillars of review first before I give you kind of my overall impressions. First one we'll talk about is playtime. Playtime take you 15 minutes or so, probably to play a full game of it. Although it could go really quickly if, you know, one team is just really dominating and scoring a lot of points quickly. The other side of it is the player count, 2 or 4 players. I actually kind of prefer 4 players. It's great 2-player. It's great as a 2-player game, good head-to-head back and forth. But the neat thing about 4 players is you kind of have like that off player who's sort of playing like, I don't know, I'm trying to use like a sports analogy, like a sweeper or like a center safety or something like that, where you can kind of try to set up and prevent shots, vice versa for your opponent and for your other teammate. So you can kind of like, you know, take time to get shots over there to your side where they're, you know, not across the other end of the board. They're kind of easy for the other player. And then, you know, as the offset player from the other team, you can try to prevent that. So there is a little bit more tactical aspects to it. I think especially because this is like the first time we all have played it, so we're just kind of getting used to, like, you know, flicking and getting all the skills down of it. So being very good at like getting trick shots and stuff is really difficult. But you can use kind of the tactical side in a 4-player game, and that adds that kind of layer of depth and kind of interesting, you know, kind of stuff to chew on as you play. Whereas I think if you were really skilled, you know, you would play this for years, then you know, maybe a 2-player game would be a little bit more interesting, but, you know, a 4-player game might just be over too quickly or something like that. But I think right now I prefer it as a 4-player game. And now in terms of what other games is it like, well, I've kind of mentioned it a lot over the course of the video. It's a lot like Carom, a lot like playing 8-ball. It's a lot like playing Crokinole and that kind of flicking style of game. There's a lot of these like curling board games, so it kind of feels like that, where you're flicking and trying to position and knock things in. But really it's a lot like Carom without sticks. The board and the quality of everything that this particular company has put together, Expat Fingerboards, which I will have a link to if you are interested in purchasing it in the United States or Canada. I've been pretty impressed with it. It's really sturdy. You know, they sent it, and there's no warping or anything funky like that. Everything has been flicking and flowing smoothly. So I've been pretty impressed with it. We'll talk about the price. The price of the medium-sized board that I have now is just under $100, and then you can get the large one, I think, for like $120. Check out the website for sure on that stuff. But to me, that's for the quality of material and everything that you get, and it's kind of like an heirloom piece, you know, nice wood, you know, there's a nice presentation, everything looks really good. To me, that's more than reasonable for the actual, you know, price and what you get and everything, and the amount of fun. So I think in terms of the production quality, which is very important in a game like this, the copy that I have is more than enough for what I think you get kind of the bang for your buck there. But the game, yeah, it's just really fun. Like I said, it really reminds me of playing like a combination of Carom and Crokinole, but it's a lot, I'd say probably a little bit more beginner friendly than Crokinole can be. But it's really interesting with that special sort of disc that they have, where you kind of depress your finger into the groove, and that's kind of a neat kind of, you know, new sort of technique for me to learn personally. But again, I really like the 4-player side of it, the team dynamic, which really kind of scratches that Crokinole itch if you really like Crokinole. So it has that sort of same kind of layer of tactical abilities where you are sort of, you know, trying to set up shots and help your teammate out, and then also kind of do a little bit of blocking if you can. for your opponent as you play it. But I definitely recommend folks take a look at South African fingerboards. My wife's South African, so that got me interested in this. I had never heard of this game, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, I remember people playing that." You could go buy this at like sporting goods stores and things like that back in South Africa, and apparently in Australia and New Zealand as well. So now, if you're an expatriate, or this seems like a fun, interesting game to you as a United States citizen or a Canadian citizen, then, well, you don't have to be a citizen, but if you live here, then then you can check out this board, and it's very, very fun, and I definitely recommend it. Thanks.